Hey guys, welcome to episode number 95. Today is Wednesday, so it's DIY Wednesday. And today I wanted to try out a DIY aquarium vacuum using nothing more than an aquarium pump. I'm going to try to keep it really simple here, really low cost. This is an idea that I've had for a while and I've just never really gotten around to doing it. But the concept is to use the aquarium pump and use a piece of airline tubing and snake that all the way down to the bottom of the tank and use it as an airlift. Use the PVC as an airlift tube connected to a piece of old nylon, which essentially acts as the vacuum bag to collect all of the debris. And the air would just, uplift through the tube. Anything that was on the floor of the tank would be sucked up through the tube, and it would get stuck in the bag, and then the water would pass back through the bag into the tank. Now, this won't get you around water changes, but what I have found with a lot of tanks, especially with breeders, is you tend to use bare bottom tanks because they're a lot easier to maintain. And a lot of those, like one of my first videos was a aquarium tank rack construction. A lot of those sit side by side, so you've got a lot of tanks, you've got a lot of maintenance to do, you've got a lot of food and a lot of fish poop that just kind of accumulates in the bottoms of those tanks. And it doesn't matter if you have an overflow in every tank, you kind of need to do some vacuuming every once in a while. And I wanted an easy way to do that vacuuming without having to commit to a water change, something that can be done independently of a water change. And it's not going to replace the water change, but it is going to get rid of a lot of the solid waste that's just kind of building up in the tank. And that's always a good thing. So the more you do that, the better, honestly. So what I'm going to do here is cut a couple pieces of PVC. This is going to be the first time I've attempted this, so I don't know how well it's going to work, but we're going to try it together here. Alright, so essentially what I have here is one end is going to be my siphon end, and the other end is going to be connected to my piece of nylon. So very simple. There is a nice little place here on these PVC elbows where you can drill a hole, and the hole size is going to correspond with roughly the size of the tubing here. Now, it doesn't need to be a perfect seal because all it's going to do is kind of snake through here almost to the end, so that when air goes through the tube, the bubbles get uplifted through the tube, and then everything, all the water, or the majority of the water, passes through this end and into the nylon. So let's go ahead and cut the nylon into something of a bag, and this kind of acts like a regular vacuum you'd have at home. So I'm just going to tie off one end of the nylon here, and then the other end I'm going to kind of place over this tube, and then I'm going to take one or two rubber bands here. I'll just kind of double it up or quadruple it up or something. Let's see. Let's just get it on there first and see what happens. But the idea here is that all of the solid waste is going to accumulate in this bag, so all the water will pass back through into the tank. All the solid waste will accumulate in here. It doesn't really have anywhere else to go. So when you're done, you can just remove this bag, flip it inside out, rinse it out, and then just reattach it back to here. Not very high tech at all, but this is basically all you need. Two optional components, and I don't know that I would waste the money adding these parts, but you can use an air stone if the size of your PVC is large enough. You can use an air stone, and more bubbles means a faster uplift in some cases. But I'm not quite sure that I need that. And one other thing you could do is use an air valve to adjust the flow rate of your air. But again, I think the more flow the better. So I'm going to leave it full blast and see what happens here. So essentially, this is everything you need to make this work. I've got my air pump, I've got my hose, and I've got my DIY ghetto vacuum here. So let's see if it works on a tank. Alright guys, here we are. One thing I did do since cutting the last video was I did add a small stone to the inside of the pantyhose here, just to weight down the bag a little bit. You'll notice when I put this in the water that the bubbles do raise one end up, but at least one end is still lower because of the stone in there. So this is probably familiar to a lot of you guys who have bare bottom tanks. It's basically fish waste, fish food, small scraps of plants, probably a few rocks and a few snails. There is actually one baby fish in there too, so I will remove that after I'm done. But the goal here is to see how quickly this will clean the bottom of the tank. Now it might not be really fast, but the larger air pump you have, the more airflow you're going to have, and the faster it will vacuum. So take that into consideration. And it's probably not going to pick up all of the rocks and all of the snails, but I am hoping to remove the majority of that waste and debris on the bottom, all the organic stuff at least. So I'm going to put this in the water and give it a test here. You'll see the airline is there, and I'm just going to go back and forth here, and I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, but I'm sure after a few lines here you'll see the progress this vacuum is making in a relatively short amount of time. Again, this isn't going to work very well or at all on a tank with gravel or with sand for substrate. But for a bare bottom tank, it looks like it does a fairly decent job here. I'm just going to go over the entire bottom of this tank once with this gravel vac to see what kind of difference it makes. And you know what? I am noticing that what is happening is this pantyhose isn't tight enough, that some of the finer debris, as you can see, has gotten kicked up in the water column. And I believe what most of that is from is actually stuff that's gone through the vacuum and straight back out the bag, the pantyhose here that I've made. So you'll see the water is quite stirred up with all of the fine particles. But yeah, so I've gone over this once, and I think I've gotten a lot of the heavy organics off the bottom. I've left the majority of the rocks and the plant life where it is, although some people would consider these plant scraps as waste as well. But I don't know that it's going to pick those up as readily. But what I am going to do here is I'm going to remove this vacuum, And I'm going to give this a few minutes to settle down, and then we'll come back and see the results. Okay, and a couple minutes have gone by. That fine debris is kind of settled, and what I've done here is I actually put a second pantyhose over the first one to kind of double bag this portion, and hopefully what that'll do is keep more of that fine debris inside the bag, and hopefully it won't blow back into the tank. So I'm going to give this a second pass to see if I can pick up any more of that debris and see if this double bag is going to work out any better. Let's give this a try. And what I might have to do is actually see if I can dig out a micron sock if this doesn't work. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'm looking at the bag and not really where I'm vacuuming, and I can see more of it still going through the bag. So I think what this tells me is pantyhose will work fine for the large debris, definitely, and this vacuum concept does indeed work really well at pulling stuff off the bottom of a tank, but the pantyhose just isn't quite a tight enough knit to contain all of that fine fish waste on the bottom of the tank. So what I'm gonna do is maybe try to find a micron sock here, and maybe I'll modify this vacuum a little bit to pick more stuff up here. But if you have any ideas other than a micron sock on how to improve this design, or what you'd like to see me do to try to improve this design, definitely let me know. I think it has some merit, especially since everyone has an aquarium air pump, and you know, the parts here, the pieces are it's literally like 20 cents. So that's it for now, guys. Maybe I'll revisit this project at a later date when I have a micron sock, but if you have any ideas, let me know. Alright guys, see you later.